This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the History of Aviation podcast, the podcast series where we discuss historic aircraft. I'm Derrick Beeler, and I'm joined by co-hosts David Rowe and Dave Gorman. In this episode 33, we will be discussing the Cessna Caravan.
The Cessna 208 Caravan is a utility aircraft produced by Cessna. The project was commenced on November 20th, 1981, and the prototype first flew on December 9th, 1982.
From his studio near Bristol, Tennessee, Mr. David Rowe. How you been, David?
I have been doing very well. I've had a little bit of excitement here. I've been traveling this past weekend. Made the trip down to Chattanooga for a concert. Got to see the B-52s, not the bomber, but the band, and thoroughly enjoyed that. While I was in Chattanooga, I'm sure most aviation people are aware that there was a FedEx 757 that had a little scrape down the runway recently. So I ran over to the airport, got some pictures of it. They've got it back on its wheels, and both engine nacelles are wrapped up in big plastic, green plastic. So I assume it's on its way to being repaired. So got to see that. Then traveled back to Knoxville on Saturday in time to watch a pair of F-15s take off and land from McGee-Tyson Airport for the UT versus Texas A&M football game flyover. And lo and behold, there's a Ford Trimotor at McGee-Tyson. So I went and shot some video of it taking off and landing and did a walk-around video. And just so happened, met a gentleman there. His family was taking a ride, and my video has his entire family getting on the plane with him waving goodbye to them. So when he sees that, he'll be very happy. So good weekend for me. And that video just premiered on my Aerophile YouTube channel, so it's out there for everybody to see. So go check it out.
From his studio in Knoxville, Tennessee, Mr. Dave Gorman. How are you, Dave?
Hey, doing great. Good to see you guys. Things have been pretty good here. We just finished off fall break in Knox County schools here, so it's nice to have some time off. I was able to go down to Chattanooga with a friend of mine, Bill. Yeah, that's him, Bill. And we went down and we actually visited a cemetery in Chattanooga and cleaned the grave marker of a Tennessee pilot and his wife. They both, he died in the crash of the XB-70 Valkyrie in June of 1966. And he was from Chattanooga and one of only 7 people chosen to fly what is one of my all-time favorite aircraft, one that we'll have to do on this podcast here soon, I hope. But he was on his first flight, and there's a tragic incident in a collision. He and Joe Walker, who was the chief test pilot for NASA, were killed in this accident. And Carl is buried. Carl Cross is his name, and he was buried in Chattanooga. And I'm been in contact with his family, got permission to go and clean the markers. And so Bill and I went down and did that and made it look really nice. And it felt great to be able to do a little tribute to Carl Cross and his family, and I know they were appreciative, and a lot of fans of the Valkyrie appreciated it. I shared pictures online, so that was cool. Did not get over to see the F-15s or the Trimotor. I did see the Trimotor from outside the fence, but didn't go inside the fence. Just didn't have time. It was a little bit busy towards the end of the week, but looking forward to watching your videos, Dave. You do such a great job with those.
Thank you very much. It was a fun one. Got to do the walk around and start up, taxi out. So lots to see.
Absolutely. All right. From his studio in Alcoa, Tennessee, Derrick Beeler. Hey, Derrick, how you been, buddy?
Doing really well. We're talking about a little bit about the Ford Trimotor. From my house in Alcoa, from my front porch. Did the same thing with Doc. You can just sit on my front porch and just watch every ride. And that's what I did with the Ford Trimotor on Saturday. Just, low and slow. and just you'd watch it do its pattern, and it was just, great to watch and to think about, traveling that way back then would have been, well, first off, way different. And, now it's way faster, obviously, but I mean, it's just an amazing how just low and slow it goes.
95 years old is how old that plane is.
I know, it's
1928.
crazy.
It's been doing this job for a really long time. It's an amazing aircraft.
And in its time, that was luxury travel, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was top notch, as good as it got.
Definitely.
I was going to say I had a chance to ride on it myself about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago in Knoxville, and it's so smooth. It's deceptively smooth, and great view out the windows. You look out the window, you can see the one of the engines hanging off the wing, and it's got gauges that you can see on the struts that attach the engine to the wing. And the gauges are like oil pressure and things. And you're like, wow, that's really something. The flight engineer or the co-pilot, I guess, would have to go back and look out the window to make sure everything, that there was plenty of oil in the, is all right there. So it's a great platform, very stable, very comfortable, smooth flyer. Can't get over the fact, like you say, it's 95 years old, but boy, oh boy, get a ride on this while you can.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting about it is the fact that, going that slow, you would be able to see plenty. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah. And you're low and it's just big windows. And I mean, you can see for ages, just look out and it's just the whole horizon at your, beck and call there.
Another interesting aircraft that we're covering today is the Cessna Caravan. That's a unique one.
Absolutely is. It's very, it's not a fancy looking airplane. It's a Cessna aircraft. It's owned by Textron Aviation, and they have built a really great multi-purpose aircraft that pretty much, if you need something hauled to a remote location that's 1,000 miles away, this is the aircraft that can get it done. Whether it's a field, an unimproved strip, a lake, a river, snowy mountainside, this aircraft is what you're looking for.
It Cessna knows how to build good, strong, durable, reliable aircraft. This plane is all of those things. It's got a big turboprop up in the front of it. So for those unimproved fields, short fields, all kinds of things, it is got the power in spades. It's a big, sturdy aircraft. Has some interesting uses, not just cargo, that I was not aware of or had forgotten about until we were doing a little bit of research on this sucker. But it's an impressive aircraft. But Dave, if you've ever seen one of these before, what is it most likely doing?
Carrying cargo or a whole bunch of people. This plane can hold up to 14 people in special cases, or about 3,000 pounds of cargo. That's what's really interesting about it. Cessna designed this aircraft so that the inside, you just pull the seats out, put cargo in. You need half people, half cargo. You put your seats back in that you need and cargo in the back. You can do one person, 6 people. It's just so configurable that it's capable of just about anything.
Well, it often is flying. You might see it in the livery of FedEx, correct? They're a big operator.
As a matter of fact, that was one of the initial people that were interested in the aircraft for Cessna. I'm sure that when FedEx saw the capabilities of this, short haul, but a lot of weight, it was perfect for package deliveries to remote locations. So exactly, FedEx was your first person that was interested. What was it? They did, what was the number? 239 aircraft they have purchased. So wow. They have used a bunch of them. It's just perfect for what, like I said, short haul to remote locations, and you can put a lot in it. Cessna built it originally as the 208B, and FedEx needed a little bit larger version, so they added 20 inches to the fuselage ahead of the wing and 28 inches behind the wing. And the stretch added 34% more volume to the fuselage. And that turned into the 208B Super Cargo Master for FedEx. So, I mean, Cessna was right there to, facilitate what FedEx needed. And it worked because they sold them a bunch of aircraft.
Really helped to maximize their profit from their investment. Space is profit there, isn't it?
Well, that's just it. If you read any of the literature that Cessna puts out about this aircraft, it's all about versatility and ruggedness and return on investment. It's very much you put your time and money into this aircraft and it's going to return a profit to you because it's just highly capable. It just is literally, it's got big doors on the left-hand side that open up. It was interesting. I was watching a video. One door opens upward toward the roof, and the bottom half opens as a sideways door going toward the front of the aircraft. You can also get it with a slide-up cargo door that slides up, kind of like the B-24 bomber bomb bay doors do. It just slides up, and it's great for skydiving, which is one of the uses that this aircraft is now a prime user of.
So a lot of flexibility. Yeah, I was looking at some pictures of this aircraft, and it kind of, maybe from the wing back towards the back of the plane, it looks like de Havilland designed this. It's got the sturdy type of construction, and from the wing forward, it does look very Cessna-ish to me, whatever that is. But the design of the cockpit windows and the nose and everything, and the landing gear. But from the back, it's a big aircraft. It's kind of deceptive in how large it is.
Well, the interior capacity is 340 cubic feet. So the 208B can carry up to 3,000 pounds. The Grand Caravan, which is the larger stretched version, can carry upwards of 3,500 pounds. And something we haven't.
I lived in an apartment. I was going to say I lived in apartments smaller than that. So
right, exactly. It's a massive amount.
It sounds pretty roomy, and single engine operation, fixed landing gear, right?
That is correct. Some really tough landing gear. I was reading that the rear landing gear is one piece of metal that stretches from wheel to wheel. And so when that plane lands on a rough strip or, rough ground, all the power and impact is transferred through the landing gear and not up into the airplane. It kind of handles it itself. It was really interesting.
Well, again, that just comes from knowing what their operators need and designing a plane to fit that need.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about cargo space. This one comes with a belly pod. Particularly the Grand Caravans have this extra pod that they can strap to the bottom of the aircraft that adds an extra 111 cubic feet of space, or 1,000 extra pounds. So it's got 4 little doors, and you can just put things in there as well. So it just increases the capabilities of the Caravan completely.
This is a pressurized aircraft too, isn't it?
I did not read that it was, so I'm not sure.
I think I saw it's got a ceiling of about 25,000. So that's not typical cargo operations, I don't guess, but I mean, it could be.
Well, I think this one is not really meant to go high because it doesn't. Yeah. It only goes 1,000 miles, so you're not really, going to climb to 30 or 40,000 feet and then come back down like a jet type aircraft would. So I don't know. I'll have to go and look back at that because I did not read anything about it being pressurized.
I think the first one of these I regularly saw that wasn't operated by FedEx, and to be honest, I don't see a lot of those. I see them more on radar than coming into Knoxville, but I'll notice them up on ADSB or things like that from time to time. and was talking with a friend who said, that RAM, Remote Area Medical here in Knoxville, operates one. This is their go-to aircraft now. Is that right?
That is correct. And since you mentioned it, guess whose airplane I saw Saturday at Tri-Cities McGee Tyson Airport. I saw the Ram Grand Caravan taking off while we were waiting for the F-15s to take off. And I didn't have the right camera in my head. I had my video camera and not my still camera. So I did not take a picture of it. But yes, they do fly it regularly, and it is their main support aircraft for their medical events that they hold around the region.
Well, they've moved away from that DC-3 that they operated for many years, thanks to a very generous donor who allowed them use of that airplane. But I'd say that this plane is a lot more user-friendly and meets their needs. And, they can, if they have to, parachute out of this plane if they need to bring doctors to remote locations. Don't know if they ever have, but that was a feature that they bragged about and talked about with their C-47 DC-3 before.
Well, this Grand Caravan that Ram uses is actually an ex-FedEx aircraft. FedEx donated it to them. So it is a former FedEx flyer.
Awesome. And that Ram that's for folks that don't know, that's Remote Area Medical.
Yes, the late Stan Brock from Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. That is based in Knoxville, but really Appalachia and beyond type of medical provider to low income, underinsured or uninsured people who need dental and medical support and help and services. And so they operate from Knoxville, but they serve regions outside of Knoxville as well. And having aircraft capability really expands their reach, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually for underserved communities. So it's not going to a big city. It's going to small, mountain cities and places that are just a little harder to get to and don't have a lot of medical facilities. So a great job that they do too. It's a big turnout when they show up.
And thanks for mentioning that FedEx donated that plane. So that's a great service that they provide. Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of these places need that corporate sponsorship, and that's a very simple thing to do. Is like, hey, we've got a couple of these sitting around. Why don't you all put it to good use? And here we are.
Well, you mentioned that this is a plane, if it's carrying passengers, could carry, I think you said up to 14.
Apparently you have to have a little special waiver from the FAA to get that many people on there, because that's a little overloaded, I believe. But yes, it's capable of carrying up to 14 people. And I even read that belly pod, there are stories that some people may have possibly ridden inside that belly pod, animals and people, may or may not have, can't confirm or deny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm not that surprised. It sounds, personally, I like that's feasible, that somebody looked at that and thought, I bet we could get one or two more people and a goat in there or something.
Well, and that's the typical where this is, primarily used is, Africa and, the outback in Australia, or, remote places where, people need to move things, hey, I sold a goat. I got to take it into town. So this is the quickest way to get it there. So sure. It's, and it's a big airplane. It can do it.
But they'd never milked a cow in it like the Trimotor.
Probably not.
Okay.
Well, we haven't seen the pictures yet. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
But any of you caravan operators out there want to take that as a challenge, consider it done. We'd love to see the evidence sometime.
Another thing, we're talking about the remote areas. It has an option for floats and for skis. So like we were talking, you can land it on a lake. You can put it on a side of a mountain in the snow. So those are other capabilities that just add to the versatility of the Caravan. I was reading that the floats are really large. They're about 40 inches tall. So, I mean, almost, 3.5 feet tall. So pretty big, but, you're carrying a lot of weight. And so that's what's required. They also have to put, with floats, they have to put extra fins on the tail and vortex generators on the wing to help disturb the air as it goes back across because of the extra weight and handling issues. So it's capable, quite capable.
Well, it also, and this is about a 40-year-old design, I believe, right? Early 80s.
Well, yeah, early 80s, exactly.
Yeah, so, it doesn't seem like it's going out I mean, we were talking about a 95-year-old Trimotor to begin the show. It doesn't look like the Caravan is on its way out anytime soon.
Absolutely
it's got plenty of work to be done.
Right. Yeah, I would expect these to be around for another 40 or 50 years easy. Just, maintain them.
But yeah, once again, though, I see a fairly innocuous looking aircraft that's been adapted for not just those other type of civilian uses with the skis or the floats or things like that, but military use. This plane has seen military service. I had no idea. And now, it just increases its badassery when you start thinking about Hellfire missiles slung underneath the wings of this sucker.
Well, exactly. That it was a surprise to me as well because I was unaware of this. But yeah, this aircraft has seen combat. That's just the AC-208 Combat Caravan. It was built by ATK, armed with Hellfire missiles, and used by the Iraqi Air Force. They employed it against insurgents in the Anbar province in 2014. So there you go.
Those insurgents were thinking, "Oh, good, my package is coming," and the pilot, when he pickled the Hellfires, was thinking, "Oh yeah, special delivery, buddy."
Yeah, exactly.
So somewhere there's got to be a patch that says Combat Caravan, and I'm going to have to purchase one because that just sounds too cool to be true.
Well, and not only has it done that, but the U.S. military uses it as the U-27A. The Brazilian Air Force uses it as the C-98. And there is also, I was reading, an MC-208 Guardian, which is a multi-role aircraft built on the Cessna Caravan, capable of aerial surveillance, close air support, casualty and medical evacuations, and precision strike all in one mission. So it's been selected as one of 5 remaining competitors to become the U.S. Special Operation Command's armed Overwatch aircraft. So you could see it again being another military use.
Well, it just keeps growing and growing that mission as it moves further away in some cases from a cargo carrier. How many of these have they built, Dave?
I believe about 3,000 of them. See if that was the number I've got.
That sounds right. I think I saw that. It's up over 3,000 now.
Right. Yeah. 3,000. That was in 2022. So we've, had another year under our belt. So they probably got a few more. The interesting thing was of that 3,000, they have 24 million flight hours logged.
Wow.
So that is a lot of time in the air for this aircraft.
And yeah, it is a working aircraft, that's for sure.
Yeah. Some of the things: flight training, commuter airlines, VIP transport, air cargo, which we've talked about, air ambulance, skydiving, and the humanitarian missions like the RAM folks are using it for. So, and because it's a single pilot, it doesn't require a big crew. So that means more room for material. So it's a great airplane.
I was looking at that very thing and looking at some pictures of the cockpit layout and realized that it really was just a single pilot aircraft. It's which, again, speaks to its versatility. It's not so complicated. You need a co-pilot or anything like that. So, well, I got to imagine with some of the cargo operations, are these guys, single pilot, they can handle that, right? Do they have another crew member along to assist with anything?
Well, yeah, you can. It's obviously got 2 seats in the front, so you can have a second co-pilot. So yes, but it's not it's not required. Is what I'm trying to say. Is it's not you can't you don't have to have 2 pilots to take off.
Unlike a jumbo jet or something where it would be required. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Caravan is the largest single engine airplane ever produced by Cessna. So, it's a big bird.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And as you were talking about some of those dimensions and just how it's grown, I wonder what we're going to see in the next 15 or 20 years to keep it competitive and keep it valuable. Will there be some other pod attachments that are going to be put in there, a bigger engine, different things that they could do to extend the range. It really fills a niche, though, that FedEx obviously has, and it's been very successful for them.
Yeah, it sure has. I was talking about the cockpit. They have Garmin G1000 screens inside, and it's just, you look at the cockpit and it's just modern. It's really, a sweet looking cockpit layout. Another thing I noticed, if you look at any of the videos of looking out of the front of the aircraft, it has a huge windshield. You have great visibility out of this aircraft. Just the windows kind of go down and up and it back. So if you're flying into a jungle or something, you can definitely see where you're going because you're not having issues with small windows.
So you mentioned that you saw a couple of these in Knoxville. You saw what did you say? You saw one
saw one taken off from McGee Tyson Saturday.
Yeah. But if you're closer to Memphis near the FedEx hub there, obviously this is probably something you'd be able to see quite a bit. I couldn't find any places that had any on display where you could see one. You're just going to have to catch one in the air, coming into local airport perhaps, or maybe following and tracking one on ADSB. But they're working and they're flying 24 hours a day. FedEx doesn't sleep. So, you may be in a new town, stopping or whatever at an airport and look out and you may see one there because they're still working every single day.
Exactly. They're all over the world. I was reading they have service facilities for the Caravan in North America, Europe, Australia, and in the Asia Pacific area. So if you've got one of these planes, they've got service facilities around the world. So they're, extremely capable of repairing and getting you back in the air in a hurry. So that's, it's a big deal because there's so many of them out there working every day.
I got to believe you saw this reference, a story about a pilot who became incapacitated and a passenger landed the plane with the help of a certified air traffic controller.
Yep. Exactly. And the person that landed it had no flight experience whatsoever. So,
I read that.
That was recently.
I read that and I thought, there's a few planes that in my silly mind, I think maybe I could do that in the Cub if I had to. This is a big plane for a unskilled pilot to be able to land. I mean, obviously having somebody helping him and everything, but that really amazed me. And it speaks to maybe the simplicity and ease of operations. I'm sure that guy needed to change his shorts once he landed, but he did it. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about that is in my flight simulator days, I actually chose the Caravan one time. And I could do nothing with it. Of course, that was on Flight Sim, but, I had a really hard time with the Caravan.
Just wouldn't go where you pointed it?
I don't know if it did. It wasn't yellow and it didn't say Cub on the back of it.
Is that simple, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another interesting thing that I discovered. This is another aircraft that has been produced in China. This one was actually licensed build. It wasn't taken or stolen. This one was actually licensed, borrowed. Exactly. So there's a lot of aircraft that get built in China that I'm discovering that I didn't realize. 2012, a Cessna started an assembly line in China where they would send kits of the Caravan over, and the Chinese would build it. They built 30 of them in about 3 or 4 years. So there are some Chinese Caravans flying around out there somewhere.
As we're talking about the Cessna Caravan in this episode 33 of the History of Aviation podcast, let's jump into final thoughts, starting with you, David Rowe.
Versatility and capability. That's the primary words for this aircraft. It's capable of doing pretty much whatever you need to do. 3,000 pounds, it'll take it wherever you want it to go. Rugged, versatile, and it's great for special missions, humanitarian missions, whatever it needs to be. In some cases, it's a lifeline for small communities because there's no other way to get materials and supplies to them except throwing it in the back of this airplane and hopping a mountain over to them. So, and again, it's a testament to simplicity and functionality. It's a great airplane.
Closing thoughts, Dave Gorman.
Agree with everything you said. The reliability of this aircraft, the functionability. It's one I honestly didn't know much about. It's not one I've seen enough to where I've really thought, well, I need to learn more about this, and I feel bad about it because it really is a pretty special aircraft. Good range, good speed, good. Obviously, with the layout and everything in the cockpit, it's must be fairly easy to fly as far as all that goes. It'd be different than just having all that cargo behind you, and it seems like it can handle that. Big turboprop engine, sturdy landing gear. Some of the facts that we were talking about with that, Derrick, I think you said the landing gear struts go through the engine. Were you saying that, or was David saying that?
David.
Not through the engine, but I mean through the fuselage.
Yeah, it's one complete piece. It's not like two different landing gear. It actually reminds me of model airplanes. If you've ever seen those, they have like a sort of a V shape, but it's a single piece. So all the force of the impact of landing goes through the landing gear, and it lessens it into the fuselage. It's just model airplanes into real airplanes. They work both ways.
Well, it makes me think that there were planes that maybe were in competition for this, and they didn't make it. They didn't survive. Maybe they didn't get modified, and they just disappeared off the drawing board. But 3,000 of these things have been built in 40 years. That's incredible. I did not realize until you mentioned it, Dave, that this was the largest Cessna that they've ever built. But yeah, look at that sucker. It's huge. It's a monster. So another great one, a great surprise. Derrick, I think you picked this one out and suggested it, right?
That was David again.
Again, what is with it with Mr. Rowe? He's got it going on.
Just trying to keep the mix going, man. Keep the mix up.
This is a great one to discuss. And again, we'd love to see any pictures of any farm animals or unusual cargo from inside a Caravan. If you have that, you know where to send it.
Yeah, please do. Love to see it.
Absolutely. And guys, we got an episode coming up that I'm really, really excited about. If you have never been to a air show and never seen Greg Kuntz,
he puts on a couple of incredible shows. This is a man who flies a lot of different aircraft, can do a lot of different kinds of shows, some funny shows, some very serious shows, and an excellent pilot, does flight training. So it's going to be interesting hearing some of his background and history.
Definitely. We got that coming up in November. He'll be joining us from down in Alabama.
I can't wait because I've seen him in so many air shows in the last 10 years. He is he's a lot of fun. Yes. He go to him live in the cockpit from the middle of his routine, and it doesn't really make me want to fly with him, but I think about it sometimes.
I wonder how many times he's been shot down.
Well. He's taken fire. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Lost a wheel.
The wheel definitely
landed on the back of a truck there. So he's got some stories, and I can't wait to ask him in person. So that should be a lot.
And then we got that episode coming up in November. No exact specific date, but we will have that episode in November. And let's jump into social media and websites. David Rowe.
Aerophile.com, Aerophile on all the social media channels, particularly YouTube right now. I've got a couple of videos that I've just put out. And if you like old airplanes like the Ford Trimotor, that one's available today. Coming Friday, I've got F-15s taking off and landing. Got jet noise, Aerophile. Check it out.
Dave Gorman.
Sorry, I was busy looking at aerophile.com.
Couldn't wait, could you?
No, you kidding me? It sounds fantastic.
Hey, listen. Bruce goes on it every day.
Who?
Oh, not familiar.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
Well, I do have an Instagram at _it's Dave Gorman. I've got pictures of all kinds of things, but occasionally some aircraft shots that I take and put in circulation from time to time. My YouTube channel is Gormania videos, and have sometimes lots of music, and recently I've put up a bunch of music, but a whole lot of aircraft and a lot of things, short videos, a minute or so long from Oshkosh, and sure to enjoy sharing that with folks, and enjoy hearing from people who find those videos and are excited to see 35 seconds of their favorite plane. They're not like David's epic 2 hours at the airport that tells you all you need to know. But, I know those pilots who see your videos of the Poseidons and things like that, they love that stuff. So you keep building that audience. It's great.
Thank you very much. I like to tell a story with my videos. I like to showcase the aircraft and what it's capable of.
Well, we tease you sometimes about why it takes a little while for you to get those videos out there, but that's why, because you're telling a story, you do the research, you make sure that the story is also, bookended nicely with your description of the planes and serial numbers and origins and all that kind of stuff. So lots of work goes into your channel.
Yes, it does.
It's something to believe in for sure. And the History of Aviation podcast, we have our website listed down below. We're on Facebook. We have the Facebook group, Dave Gorman.
We do. And that Facebook group, I'm looking here. Let's see. We're at History of Aviation Podcast. So www.facebook.com / History of Aviation Podcast. And you can check in with us there, find links to our current and past episodes, and also message us about things that you would like us to talk about. You can also see where Bruce makes corrections and pithy comments. And please give him somebody to talk to. He needs the social contact. So all you can do. Okay, the telethon will begin at the end of November for Bruce. So looking forward to that.
I think it's great. I enjoyed it, guys.
Absolutely. Great plane, great talk.
Well done. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for listening to the History of Aviation podcast, episode 33. Please rate, review, subscribe to the History of Aviation podcast. Follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. For David Rowe, Dave Gorman, I'm Derrick Beeler. Thanks for listening to History of Aviation podcast.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.